Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I will be going through the troubleshooting for the plotting phases. And I have two items here on the screen, the Chia blockchain GUI as well as the solo Mad Max script. So Chia plotting is a very intensive process. It's very intensive on the CPU as well as the drives and on the RAM. So what might happen when we plot is we have both of these items crashing. We have just the application quits. Both of them are really laggy in the Windows itself when it's being plotted, or you just flat out have the computer crash. This here is very bad for you because one, your computer crashes, the application crashes, and you have to restart the plotting process for that plot. And this is how to avoid that. Most of the time when we have these issues is because the resources are incorrectly utilized. So let's go ahead and take a look here. So in the GUI we have the max RAM usage, and we'll start off with that. We do never want to have all your RAM used. So what we do is, in my case, if I look here, if you launch the task manager, you can go to the memory tab under performance, and as you see, I have 64 gigs of RAM right here, and I have plenty of space left. What I do is, if I do use this here, I never ever do 64 gigs because that's where it runs out of room, that's where it bottlenecks, and that's where the crashes happen. So in my case, I can probably get away with like 60 gigs of RAM used. I've actually never done it personally. But on smaller systems, if you have 8, you don't want to use 8. Rather, you want to use 6 to start off. Sometimes you can do 7, but there might be portions where it crashes. Oh, yeah, it might take a couple test runs. Now, for both of these, because the Mad Max doesn't focus on the RAM, we need to take a look at the threads. So right here, threads, and over in Mad Max, it's the -R with the 19 here. So this port is very important as well, because if this here is messed up and it pushes it, that's where the crashes and blue screens happen. That's where the applications quit, they lag. And once again, if the plotting stops, you gotta redo all of it, which can be very time consuming for certain systems. So right here, I have a 12-core processor with 24 threads, and there is also the quad-core processors. You have 6-core processors and octa-core processors, but it's the same principle here. Don't overdo the resource. So if I have 8 threads, I do not want to use 8 threads. Rather, you might want to stick with lower, so I would probably go 6 threads. And every system's a bit different. Sometimes you can +1 it, or sometimes you can -1, and you might get better results. So you might have to tinker around with it a little bit to find that sweet spot. You just don't want to over push it though. And we always need stuff available for the operating system and background tasks. So this here is the RAM and the CPU threads. This here is what causes most of the issues. It's just that people push their system too far without realizing, and that's where you see all these different issues happening. Now, the next thing is both of these use storage, and we need to take a look at the storage here. So as you see in the GUI, we have temporary directory 1 and 2. In Mad Max, we have the -T and the -2 right here. And with these drives, it is important that, one, they do have good read and writes, and with the Mad Max one, you can do the -W argument, which is, rather than having the one being done and then moving and then creating another one, it wants to get the one completely moved over first, and that's going to be a lot less strain on the IO throughput, where you can severely choke that if you do constant reading and writing rather than just like writing to the drive that you're doing. So another thing is we do also want to make sure that we have decent speeds and they aren't like really crappy drives, because crappy drives might not be able to maintain or perform under the stress that you're putting it through, because like I said, it is very, very intensive. So with the drives, we just want to make sure that we don't really have a lot of stuff on it, and it is probably good to every now and then wipe the drive clean. So now for the actual troubleshooting of the drives, sometimes we get extra files or it creates a lockup. So what we can do is in here, if we go to the File Explorer and we click on this PC, these top two, for instance, are my drives. They're currently running, but sometimes when you go in, you might just have some stray files here. And what this does is it can cause a little bit of confusion, and it can confuse the actual plotting system itself. So we occasionally, if you go into your plotting drives, you might see like a couple of files like this. It's always good to just go ahead and stop all the plotting, deleting all of it to make sure that the drives are completely cleared out. Once they are, you can go ahead and start the plotting again. It's just that these sometimes cause it to lock up. Another thing is with the drives and plotting specifically, we want to make sure that we don't run out of room, because that's going to cause the process to stop there. And this here is where we have to take into account the storage and plot sizes. So just to give you an idea, to get the plot size, you eventually remember these, but the temporary space is the stuff that counts. So right here, if I have a 200, or if I have a 120 gig drive, I can only do this one, which you don't even pool with and stuff. But 120, there's no way we're going to get 239 gigabytes. So once that drive max out, it's going to crash, it's going to do its thing, get slow, laggy, stop the plotting here, stop the plotting in Mad Max, maybe even crash it. So we want to make sure we always have resource available here. So I went the 1 terabyte route for both my plotting drives, and as you see, I should have no issues doing K33 as well, but I'm going to struggle with these bottom ones for like the future proofing. But if you have a 250, that should work just fine, and you can have 250 dual drives, and that's going to speed it up. And as long as you have resource and room on these, you can go ahead and delete it. And then people don't actually check this a lot, but the last thing I want to show you is if you go into recycle bin here, you get the temp file sometimes to move into here, and that can fill up your storage really quick. So you can just do the highlight, delete, and that's actually just videos, but it's the same thing to just go ahead and delete it. And these are going to be the ways to prevent the person error side. The last step is the more intrusive stuff, and this is where we might have to reinstall Chia here, or we might just have to get a fresh copy of Mad Max in case there's something wrong with it. But you can just go ahead and get the Mad Max off GitHub there, and then the Chia you can re-download from the page or their GitHub.